And it's the Championship. And it's the first Saturday after the end of the January transfer window. So let us see, probably just see my side rooted to the bottom of the Championship. After our disastrous January transfer window, where we made 3 signings after 11 o'clock. Yes. I think we're rooted to the bottom. Rooted to the bottom. Oh, I hope we can get off it, but I am not very confident. Interesting, interesting close of business. I'm going to try and keep in with the idea of how the different teams have really hit the ground after the December finishing and the January transfer window. So let's have a go. Let's have a start. I want to first of all go back to yesterday. Bristol City Leeds. I think that was always going to be a case of whether Bristol City turned up. So they still are that team that can do well, and they can actually win anybody in that league, and I mean anybody. They could beat Leicester City and Ipswich, but they have to turn up, and I'm sure that the fans. I've heard the fans in the last couple of years saying, "Oh, which team's going to turn up? The one that wants to try and win it, or the one that wants to seemingly just be on the pitch and collect the money at the end of the week." I think my view was that Leeds were always going to win it, but that Bristol could certainly pull something out of that one, and they could certainly get a draw if they turned up and really fought for that draw. Probably not. If they fought for the win, I think they would have drawn. Leeds are after all flying. I think they did really well, 1-0. I think that was actually an extremely good result for Bristol. But I think Bristol City should really be a little bit more confident with their own play, because they could actually be right up there with the top 6 and stay there, because they have the ability, but and they have the players, but the mentality just seems to drop and rise. They'll play really well against a really good team and get a really good result, and then they'll play a poor team and get hammered, and you think, well, not hammered, but they'll play poorly against it. And it's like, why have you just played badly against a poor side? It's remarkable how that particular team seems to do the same year on year out. Last year it didn't. I must admit, before any Bristol City fans comment in the comments, last year you were actually quite consistent, and I thought last year Bristol City were a lot more consistent than what they were the year before and this year. So let's go on. Let's go Blackburn versus QPR. Now Blackburn are they've actually, I think they're coming into this weekend an awful lot better off. They're now starting to turn my ideas of them. I have actually been putting Blackburn as one of the weaker sides, and I must admit, there's a couple of times, I think there's at least one video where I put Blackburn in the bottom 6 before the start of the season, and I wasn't surprised that they didn't particularly perform very well. Yeah, they've had a few ups and downs. They scraped a draw against Rotherham at home. Rotherham nearly got their first away win in 2 years. And you have to think that they again have been very up and down, but I think that they've started to turn it around. I think there's a chance here that they've done enough building of morale and building of the squad over the last few weeks to be able to beat a side that is looking like it could finish 24th or 23rd. QPR not done anything. They've got Elias Chair, and they've got Elias Chair, and they've got Elias Chair. Oh, hang on a minute. They've only got one player. Let's face it, the last time they went on a run, this year, they went a really good run. 2-3 games. Was it they won in a row? 2, I think it was. And the papers and the news came down saying, "Oh yeah, Elias Chair's on fire. He's really." The reason why they've won these games is solely Elias Chair, and you're thinking, "Yeah, I can imagine that. He's a brilliant player. I don't know how they managed to keep hold of him, but with him, they have a chance. Without him, they would have had no chance." I think that they will put. I think QPR will put up a fight, and I think their defence. They've really tightened the defence up of QPR. The one thing I'm worried about with the one thing I'm worried about with Blackburn is that they always set up in one way, and then they'll continue to play that way all the time without actually thinking about, hey, this isn't working, guys. What do we need to do? And the issue that I have with that is that these people seem to think that it's the management seem to think that it's just a case of let's play this the same way. Yeah, we're not doing very well, or we'll still play this the same way. Let's lob it forward and see if we can get it over the back line and get a few shots on goal. We'll win it. It didn't work last year against Rotherham. Didn't really work this year against Rotherham. And they carried on doing the same thing. If they do that against QPR, I've got a feeling QPR could nick it in the last, in the sort of last 20 minutes. Because they'll suddenly realise that they're not going to get beaten at this point. And actually, if we just go on a couple of runs, we could catch them out. So I'm going to go for a very tidy 2-0 win to Blackburn. If they can get this idea of let's just try and lob it over the back and win them idea out of their head. But they didn't do that at home to Huddersfield and drew 1-1. And they're exactly the same in exactly the same situation as QPR. They've got an extremely good defence. They hit you on the break. Because they've tidied up that defence, that back line, don't try and put it over their tall back line. You ain't going to get it over there. And Blackburn keep doing it. And the teams at the bottom, that's why the teams at the bottom are doing well against them. Because they try and bolster that back line, which is great. But as we've seen from QPR, it's not having a back line, but you haven't got a front line to make advantage of it. So you tend to do a hell of a lot of draws and short 1-0 defeats. So that's why they're at the bottom, but they have a really good defence. So if you try lobbing it over them, they tend to be very well thought out plans on how to stop people like Blackburn just lobbing it over and having a shot on goal. So that said, I'm going to stick with They both drew 1-1. They both drew 1-1. That's the strange thing. They both drew 1-1 against Huddersfield. But then Huddersfield and QPR were next to each other, weren't they? So that's probably a good analogy of those two teams. So yeah, we're going to stick with Blackburn 2, QPR 0. Ooh. Yeah, I was going to say 1 then. I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to go 2-0. Huddersfield versus Sheffield Wednesday. Wow. Huddersfield are definitely the better side, but Sheffield Wednesday have made some decent acquisitions. And much being a Rotherham fan, as much as I hate Sheffield Wednesday, lose, draw against Coventry 1-1, draw against Watford 0-0. I just think that Watford draw 0-0 to me shows how much their defence has come along. Yeah, they let 4 in against Southampton. Yeah, but they won Hull 3-1 and they won Cardiff 4-0. So you have to think that, have they grown up? Have they got into this division? Yeah, I think they have, and they've made a couple of good signings. I think that Wednesday now are starting to put together a squad that may quite easily be able to fight at least on par. Paint on my top. On par with the rest of the division. And if they can really fight on par with the rest of the division, I think that they could get something from this. That said, they're facing a Huddersfield side that I've already just said, their defence is absolutely solid as a rock. The number of times, certainly at the beginning of the season, where it was like 0-0, or at the most 1-1, you really, there's a lot of 0-0s and 1-1. In fact, the last 3 games, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. I think there's a storyline here somewhere, but they have a good defence. It doesn't seem to matter who they're playing. They play Plymouth, who can easily score, 3 goals. They regularly do, at home perhaps, but they regularly do score 3. Not away, but and so they play them at home and they get a 1-1, and you think, this is an interesting game. I'm going to have to say 1-1. I can't see one. Is one's extra hit in midfield and attacking midfield of Wednesday, that improvement, is that going to be enough to get past a really solid Huddersfield defence? I doubt it. You've got to be able to finish it, and I don't really see how they can finish it in the Championship. But then Huddersfield, they're quite capable of scoring 1. Yeah, probably 1. So 1-1. Hull versus Millwall. That's another difficult one. Millwall have never been. They've never been a side to do a Bristol City and to go really well one weekend and really shit the next. But Millwall have just had a really poor period. 3-2 loss to Leicester at home. Home 3-1 defeat to Borough. Away 2-0 defeat to QPR. I mean, ooh dear. But then they come back and they do a home job on Preston, who've actually been doing really well, or playing very well anyway. and they get a 1-1, and you think, yeah, great. This is just weird. Precursored by a 1-0 win to both Bristol City and Norwich. They're a little bit up and down, aren't they? They used to have, the Den used to be a place that you could never go. And more recently, in the last 2 seasons, they've been doing not so well at home and really well away. So actually, I think they'll be pushing for this. They'll be really trying to. I mean, the last away game was QPR defeat 2-1, 2-0. But I think that they can get something from this. But Hull have been really quite good in their what they wanted to do in the January window, and I think that win against Sunderland really does show me that they can actually do something here, especially at home. And the most impressive thing I've got here is the Birmingham defeat. So away to Birmingham 2-1, but Birmingham have been really, really improving, and their squad's been really improving. So actually, a 2-1 defeat to me was a really good result for them. They did manage to score, yeah, but they let two in. Yeah, I know, but they were actually really good. And I don't think they did really badly against Norwich when they lost 2-1 at home to Norwich. I'm going to go for a draw. But I think it could be a 2-2 or a 3-3. Shall I go really, really? I'm going to go. I'm going really off the fence here. I'm going to go 3-3 draw. Wow, 3-3 draw. I got rather good odds on that, I think. And then we have Norwich versus Coventry. Coventry obviously played really well, but didn't get the results. And then they started playing poorly and dropped down to, I think, about 20th position. And then they started to do really well. And more recently, the 2 draws, 1-1 and 2-2 against Sheffield Wednesday and Bristol City, I think are starting to show signs of fatigue in their squad. Whether this little break they've had improved it, they haven't had a break, have they? Because they've got the Sheffield Wednesday. They were in the FA Cup with Sheffield Wednesday, so they haven't had a break. So that's actually that's changed my mind. Had they had a break and not been in the FA Cup, I think they would have probably managed to recoup some of their energy and try and get a little bit more fitness in there. But I think, to me, it's the fitness levels of Coventry that I'm worried about. Just not convinced. Norwich. Norwich. I remember looking at the Liverpool game, and it was rather like the Arsenal game where they got in the box regular, like, just turn and shoot, and then they pass it backwards, and you're thinking, no, wrong direction, turn and shoot. I just smell it. Just smacked of Arsenal. That's good because they're a Premiership team, but you've got to take your chances. And at home, if they don't take the chances, then the home crowd is going to be pretty hacked off with them. This is going to go one of 2 ways. Can't see it being a draw. It's either going to be I'm worried about the Liverpool defeat, to be honest, and the manner of the defeat, the fact that they got in the box so many times but just turned the opposite direction and ran. I think it's going to be a Coventry win, a 2-1 Coventry win, because I can't see them I can't see Coventry running away with it because of how they've sort of slowed down a little bit and a little bit of that fatigue set in. But I still think they've got enough energy to get past a side that's just not firing on all cylinders. And I'm going to stick with a 2-1 to Coventry. Preston versus Ipswich. Ipswich 1, Maidstone United 2. Very good. Brought on their best players with about 20 minutes to go, I believe. Away at Leicester 1-1 in the Championship the game before. They didn't take it seriously. And that's the downfall of Ipswich. I think at the minute, where they drew 0-0, for instance, at at home to QPR. Stoke City, who were near the bottom at that point in time, they drew away 0-0 at Stoke, and you're thinking, right, okay, they're showing signs of underestimating teams. I mean, straight after that, they played in the FA Cup against Wimbledon away, and they won 3-1. But Wimbledon were actually really good against them, and they did score. And you have to think, this idea that's in their head that they are the better than anyone else, and if they go and play somebody in the bottom six, they're going to run away with it. Sorry, guys, if you go into a game like that, like Norwich did against Rotherham, Norwich lost 2-1. Why? Their boss actually came on the internet and said, well, we're going to win. It's just a case of by how many. Well, you pompous arse. And that's what we're getting from Ipswich. And the Ipswich fans, great, go for it, because we're bottom of the league. when we play you at Ipswich in a few days' time, it's going to be, I hope you think you're going to slaughter us, because we'll do a Maidstone on you. I'm confident, really confident. And I think that overconfidence here may not be as great, because Preston were at the top. Then they sort of like slumped for a few weeks, but now they've started to just show signs of being able to come back from that. And okay, they've only won 1 out of their last 6 games, but you have to think that it's, one's against Chelsea, so and that was 4-0. But if you take that, they've won 1 out of their last 5 games on here, not counting the Chelsea game. I think they are playing better, and I think that they are a little bit more well organised these last couple of weeks. Can they beat an Ipswich side that are going to be thinking, well, look at it, all those Reds, that we're bound. I think Ipswich will go there thinking we're bound to win these. Surely to God, look at them. They can't win. They only won 1 out of their last 6 games. Of course we can win it. So will Ipswich capitulate for 2 weeks, 2 games in a row? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say it's going to be a 2-0 win to Preston. My team, Rotherham versus Southampton. I'm going to give you 2 results here, because obviously I'm going to give you the result as a Rotherham fan, and I'm also going to give you a result as a neutral. Look at how they are playing. Southampton. The fact that they drew 1-1 in the cup against Watford, perhaps just a little bit of a blip there, but they won Swansea 3-1, Sheffield Wednesday 4-0, Walsall 4-0, Norwich 1-1. Okay, so an average team they drew 1-1 with away from home. Similar sort of situation then, except it's against Rotherham, who aren't really average. Plymouth at home 2-1 win. I actually would say there, there's not. Is there any that I wouldn't have expected? Because they've won 20 in a row, and they've not lost 20 in a row, and it started, I think, with Rotherham 1-1 at home. They couldn't even beat us then. So I would say, well, Plymouth, yeah, you'd expect to win Plymouth at home. Yeah, Premiership, ex-Premiership side against an ex-League One side. Yeah, okay. Norwich City, ex-Premiership side, not that brilliant, but they are starting to play quite well. Just not put the ball in the net. 1-1, probably actually a good result. But you would have expected them to have just sneaked it. Walsall 4-0. Yeah, you'd expect that, wouldn't you? Sheffield Wednesday 4-0. Yeah, you'd expect that. They are near the bottom. And at that point in time, or at this point in time, if you get an early goal against Sheffield Wednesday, they collapse. So yeah, 4-0 would have been good for that. Swansea, the only one I'd say is different is Swansea away 3-1. That was a good win. So that's my first good win out of these 6. Watford 1-1. Again, it's not as good as what they would have expected because it's like the Norwich game, a mid-table team against a Premiership drop team. So there's only one out of those 6 that I would say is a good win where you wouldn't expect them to have won by that amount. The others, you can expect it because of the timing of the goals or because just how much better they were in the league. So I'm actually not as in awe of their how they're playing and their results that everybody else is. Everybody else seems thinking that they're really, really good. I think at Rotherham play really well at home. For Rotherham. Rotherham have not done anything in the transfer window. Let's face it. They made 3 transfers in all after 11 o'clock somehow, and they're all League One players. So forget that. I think that we will be our usual really good defensive self. We will probably let one in because it's Southampton. We do tend to be not like Sheffield Wednesday. So if we let one in, we tend not to capitulate and suddenly go 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 5-0, 10-0. So we have done twice. So it's not impossible. But with the new manager, we tend not to. So I'm going to go with Southampton getting 1 goal. I can't see them not getting a goal. But I think Rotherham will get a goal to equal. I think it's going to be a 1-1 as far as my Rotherham self says 1-1. At home, we can do this. My neutral self says we're going to lose 3-1 and that Southampton will manage to just get. They've just got that extra oomph and it doesn't matter what they do with selling players and getting them in. They're each one of their players is probably worth more than the entire Rotherham squad. So my neutral self says 3-1 to Southampton. My Rotherham self says 1-1. Stoke City, Leicester. I think that. This to me is really going to be only one way. I think the last time that Leicester lost was Coventry away 3-1, and Coventry have actually just managed to turn the screw and start playing really well at that point. So they played them at the wrong time, and they probably went there thinking that we're going to slaughter them because they're doing really badly and they're down there in sort of just coming up from 20th place. No, you played them at the wrong time and you underestimated them. So they can underestimate. And they can be beaten when they underestimate teams. But when they could go there and they don't underestimate them, they do a lot better. Huddersfield 4-1 win at home. You see, they actually knew that Huddersfield were extremely good defensive-wise, and they didn't on that occasion underestimate Huddersfield because their results show that they're damn good in defence. So they didn't underestimate that defence. It was just a case of hold back and see if we can beat it. Not attack it because we know we can get through it. So they are beatable. However, I think the Stoke team is. I mean, at Rotherham, they won at Rotherham 1-0, and they should never have won that. They played dreadful. I think there's only one winner. I think it's going to be a 3-0 win to Leicester City. Swansea Plymouth. I actually think the Swans are now getting a bit of a. They've had 3 defeats, but let's face it, who are those defeats against? Southampton, Bournemouth, and Leicester. Come on, you're not really going to expect to walk away with any of those. Like Bournemouth lost 5-0, but come on, they're so much better than Swansea, and in a different league completely. You have to go to the games before where they won. Well, not winning Morecambe, but to win West Brom 1-0 was really good. They're playing really well, and to draw against Birmingham 2-2 away when Birmingham at a point where Birmingham were playing really well, that was really good. So actually, they're playing rather well. The results, though, don't show that, and I think this will be the point where the boss wants to turn around and say, look, I know we've lost or not won for 5 games, but it's been 5 games ago since they won. But I think they're going to do this, and I think they're going to do it on a standard 2-1 win. Can't see Plymouth not scoring, especially with the people they've got in. Can't see it at all. It could be a 2-2 draw. But I think I'm going to put my bet on Swansea 2, Plymouth 1. And I have actually put a bet on that. Watford, Cardiff. Watford have been quite sturdy, I think, although they've had 3 draws. Bristol City, Southampton, Sheffield Wednesday. I think it shows that they've gone back almost to the last time they were in the Championship when they went up, and they just couldn't score, but they weren't letting any in. They were probably the best defence in the entire league. I remember a Derby, was it Watford Derby game? Oh, Jesus, was that boring. Neither of them could score, and both had a really good defence. And this is the team. I'd say this team is almost the same as that. Not going to let any in. I think now more than ever they're starting to pull that team to that same level of defensive prowess, and I think that they're starting to build a really good defensive team. Cardiff, on the other hand, have been finding it rather difficult. I mean, the 3-1 defeat against Plymouth away. Plymouth always get 3 goals at home. It's just a case of whether you're going to be able to get 4. It's just the way they are. But they lost 4-0 away to Sheffield Wednesday, and 3-0 away at home to Leeds. I think it's going to be a narrow 1-0 to Watford. I just can't see Cardiff scoring, and because Watford's defence is really good. Can I see Watford scoring? Yeah, because a lot of people are scoring against Cardiff quite regularly at the minute. So unless they've really changed it in the last few days, I can't see them getting away with that. And the last game, West Brom versus Birmingham. What a game! What a game! Both teams, to me, are actually playing really well. Okay, I know Birmingham lost against Leicester 3-0 in the FA Cup, but to be honest, I think the FA Cup at this point to teams such as any mid-lower championship level, they know they're not going to win it, and it's just a case of getting some minutes in for most of them. Leicester City have won it. They might think that they can still go up into the Premiership and win the FA Cup as well. So they've got something to play for, but I think Birmingham didn't, not realistically. Just get out there and have fun and see what you can do. And they lost 3-0 away at Leicester. Yeah, in the cauldron of the ex-Premiership team, of course. But before that, Birmingham 2-1 win away at Stoke, 2-1 win at home to Hull. Both teams have started to play a little bit. Well, Stoke have started to play a bit better. Hull have always been quite good at the quite level playing field. And I think the only downside for the Birmingham one was a 3-0 defeat away at Leeds at a point where they were just starting to get better. I think that was rather a disappointment for them. Must have been a disappointment for them and for the fans. I think Birmingham are doing well. I think they are improving. I think their squad is improving. Never did think much of the West Brom side, but they are doing really well. Recently, a bit of a blip. I mean, I think Blackburn have never really sat with me as being a really powerful side or a really technical side. So a 4-1 win at home against them, I think, was probably decent. Decent score. Puts them in the top third of the league skill-wise. Yeah, about that level. Norwich City, they lost 2-0. Well, they have to be hoping that they're slightly better than a Norwich City side that aren't playing that well. Wolves, 2-0. FA Cup. Like I say, they're not likely to win it. They are at home. They put up a good fight, to be honest. I just think that the class showed through. I think we've got two sides here that could both win it. I just think it might be a 1-1 because both are going to think they can win it, and both can win it 1-0 easily. I don't think it'd be much more than that. I really don't. But I think 1-1 would be probably the neutral person's way of doing it. Right, so shall we go? Let's just go and have a look at a couple of games. We've got a couple of games on at the minute. Whoa, it's just moved. So at the minute we have, Tottenham versus Everton, and it's 1-1 already. So Tottenham won Everton, or Everton won, Tottenham won. So look at the goal scorers. So on 4 minutes, Tottenham took the lead through Richarlison. What did I in that? Is it Richarlison? And then Everton, equalised in 30 minutes through Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Oh, Calvert-Lewin scored. Right, okay. So that's the one that I can actually bring up. So people were listening. We've got Aberdeen Celtic, or we've got Everton.
It's the referee or anyone who'll listen.
That's loud.
Foul, but the replays are showing that it's absolutely no chance.
I don't think you can claim a foul. Let's face it, the goalkeeper can use his hands, right? he's got that added advantage over the man who's kind of leaning into him. He's got to come and physically kind
challenge
of
in the
play,
box.
because goalkeepers are never penalised for pushing players, outfield players. He's got to be more physical. He's got to try and get a fist to it and punch the ball away. Once he, like I mentioned just before, once he dives backwards, he's in no man's land because he can't get high from the jump.
So
he's falling backwards.
Is he thinking it's an Everton penalty?
When the ball goes, and that's the decision for me for Vicario. He's got to come, try and stay big, then punch the ball out with his hand. He's having a discussion with Romero at the moment. I think Romero's saying to him, "You need to sort it out. I mean, you've not covered yourself in glory here." And Vicario still thinks he's been harshly dealt by.
Yeah, it's an obvious weak point, isn't it, for Ange Postecoglou's side? Conceded a couple of goals in a couple of weeks now from a similar position, targeting Vicario in the goal. They do have, obviously, Fraser Forster on the bench, who is, let's say, a little bit more of a presence, isn't he, in the Tottenham Hotspur goal? But I think Vicario probably is the better goalkeeper. But of course, it's fine margins, and when you find somewhere,
it's definitely an Everton attack there that's gone straight into the box, and then the goalie's just wiped him out.
Everton won, Tottenham Hotspur won. Idrissa Gana Gueye has left the field of play. I imagine he will be coming back on. I can't see anyone in blue getting stripped and ready. He'd gone down, but didn't see what it was.
He seemed to be walking okay, didn't he, as he went off to the touchline there? I imagine he's going to come back on once the referee Michael Oliver allows him to.
My neck.
Everton really don't want to lose him. They've got a great deal of actual midfielders at the moment because of the African Cup of Nations.
Just seem to have.
He really needed back on. He's still on the halfway out at the moment, just waiting for the nod from the referee. I think we'll see him in a second.
Yeah, of course, Gomez made a reappearance at Everton for the first time in a long time and grabbed a goal as well. He's been really good.
Everton have actually only just scored. That's where it's come from.
Spurs have got the ball for the first time in the Everton final third for a while.
It's literally as I opened it up. So Everton actually scored, but the goalie, the Tottenham goalie's wiped him out.
Romero does really well, just a shrug. Dominic Calvert-Lewin off, goes back to Vicario, who took a chance to Jordan Pickford in the Everton goal, but manages to find Porro. He goes inside to Richarlison. Bentancur flicks on for Udogie. Some fortune there for Spurs.
So that's why that one's happening. We're on.
Everton, headed back by Maddison. Poor touch from Werner, but he might still get there in front of Godfrey. He doesn't. It will be
pretty good.
Everton throw in as Godfrey goes flying into the stand.
Really good game so far. It's 55% play to Tottenham. 45 to Everton. Everton have actually had one shot on goal. 4 shots, 1 shot on goal, 1 goal. Tottenham, 3 shots, 2 shots on target, 1 goal. So
Tottenham are trying to play out from the back, understandably, but they're not doing it in the right ways for me. They're playing it into the middle of the park and firing balls into Richarlison around like hip height, saying, right, control that. And he's got a centre half right behind him, and he's inside his own half. For me, they need to get Brennan Johnson and Timo Werner, which they were doing really well, getting them into the game in the first 10 minutes.
Playing from the back because they're away from home, but they're playing Everton, who are not that solid when you get ahead of them. They got ahead, they should have pushed more, but they're not. Let them get back, because Everton, you've got to remember they're on minus 10 points, so they're a 10-point deduction. So actually, they would be a hell of a lot higher. So, and I think people, it sounds almost like then Spurs just a setup as an away side.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin, edge of the area, looking for a shooting opportunity. He tried to play through.
They are better than Everton, absolutely.
Spurs get something going now. Down the other end, no, it's an interception from Jared Braithwaite, and Everton have won the ball back. But that's where they could be dangerous. Spurs, they've got so much pace in Richarlison, Werner, and Brennan Johnson, just unable to.
While you listen to that, we can go back and we can go to League One.
Not only has he got the pace, but I think he's also got the ability as well.
Oxford are beating Reading. Now that's interesting. Like if we go, look, Mark Harris on 32 minutes for Oxford. That's put Oxford in 5th place. I mean, Bolton are in 2nd place with 27 games, 57 points. But Portsmouth are only
Dominic
3
Calvert-Lewin.
points ahead on
I'm not sure
60
if those
points, but they've
grey
actually
brown
played
shirts are just,
3
confusing. There's a
games
few
more.
players out there,
So at the
not too
minute,
dissimilar to the Man United kit back in the
at
day.
that level, you would
Yeah,
expect
great one there.
Bolton to win at least 2 of those 3,
Not too dissimilar to that.
which would put them
Tottenham
in first
starting to
place.
try and string some passes together.
Yeah, although it's really good defensive work all over the park for Everton. Is actually
I think Peterborough, they're two games behind Portsmouth, but 4 points behind them. Depends who the 2 games are. If they're against bottom sides, they're quite likely to win both. If it's against top, stroke medium side, middle sides, then you could expect them to get 4 points at least. So I think you're going to see them at least. I think Portsmouth are going to be, look at the goal difference. Peterborough's goal difference is a hell of a lot better than Portsmouth's. It's 6 more. So I think 25 as opposed to 19. We're going to see in a couple of games' time when the games even up a little bit, you'll be seeing Plymouth, Portsmouth in probably 3rd position. Yeah, I mean Derby can't really get there. How about Barnsley? 52. Yeah, they're quite. If Portsmouth were to falter and Barnsley win both theirs, they're in hand. But yeah, you could see them in sort of fourth, probably third position. Yeah, third position. Yeah, they could get into 3rd position. Yeah, 3rd or 4th position ahead of Portsmouth, and Portsmouth could actually end up in like 5th position. So they're not doing very well at the minute. Oxford winning 1-0. 32 minutes. That was literally 7 minutes ago. So 7 minutes ago, Oxford took the lead.
He's got Richarlison in support. Werner, edge of the area for Maddison.
Aston Villa women 1.
Richarlison gets a shot on goal. It's in the back of the net.
Oh, Tottenham are leading 2-1.
Against his old club. He thought about taking his shirt.
Yeah, Aston Villa women 1. Bristol City women 1.
After Everton have been on top this last 20-25 minutes, Spurs are back in the lead.
Well, doesn't that just sum up your look as a team towards the bottom end of the table? You get yourself back in the game, you've got a real foothold in it, and all of a sudden an extra bit of quality sees you behind once again. Spurs with some really good build-up play. Doggy did well for me. He beat 2 or 3 tackles on the way into the Everton half.
So there we are. We've got Tottenham back in the lead.
And Maddison did really well to play it first time into the path of Werner. I was just about to say 5 minutes ago that Werner really struggled to make an impact, but he caused problems for Everton, dragged a couple of players out, laid it into the path of Maddison, who laid it off to Richarlison.
I like Maddison. I like Richarlison.
Very quickly, and he dug a shot out, and it's flown into the top corner. There's no chance Pickford's getting anywhere near that. It's a stunning finish. 2 for Richarlison, 2 for Tottenham. They lead again.
Yeah, I think.
It's a brilliant finish from Richarlison. Maddison with the assist.
Will he get a hat trick? Is the question, isn't it? Will he get a hat trick? You know, we're certainly.
I think he just doesn't expect it almost.
4 and 41 minutes.
He was almost thinking, he's going to have a touch here before he has a
Ashley Young now is on there for Everton. He's
smashed it into the far
near the
corner.
box.
He's not going to be the most popular man anyway in the Goodison Park area today of Liverpool, but certainly after 2 goals is going to be similar. Bit of a war of words there between Ashley Young and Van der Ven. No love lost between those two. Not sure what that was over, to be honest, but well, Richarlison, you mentioned earlier, Tom, he's in a good vein of form. He's had 2 chances and he's buried both of them today.
Yeah, 9 goals now in his last 8 appearances.
Oh, God. 9 goals in 8. I did say I liked him, but.
When he made that move to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and of course, he went a long time without scoring any goals. But he's in real fine form now for Ange Postecoglou's side. He's picked the ball up on the left-hand side.
Really a case, one of those cases where you get a striker who's just. Well, anybody who's used to scoring goals, and all of a sudden they move to a different team and they just can't score for Toffee. Well, they've been scoring for a while, and then they just stopped scoring. And it tends to be because people are just not giving them the same supply. They're used to it on the floor, and they're now got a different manager, and he's lobbing it over the top, or vice versa. We like corners, we like crosses, we like free kicks, you know. And it's only when they either get used to that and manage to change it, you know, you're suddenly, they suddenly start clicking. But it doesn't mean they wouldn't click if they went back to the on the floor, because it'd be brilliant then as well. So it's learned, you know, and that's what tends to happen with people like Richarlison. They're good at one thing, then they start playing differently. They get used to it eventually, like he has now, and all of a sudden the different style of play. There's nothing he can turn his hand to it now. Absolutely.
Great touch from Calvert-Lewin. He's maybe just too close to the goalkeeper, but it's
Everton are on the attack now.
I was just about to be a bit critical of Calvert-Lewin because I thought
how many minutes are we on?
The ball too soon. He should have given it out.
How many minutes are we on?
I
hate it when it does that. It doesn't tell me.
Wasn't too bad, but Vicario read it well, came out and gathered it.
Actually, Everton have the biggest XG. We're on 44 minutes, and Gaye shoots off target.
Edge of the area for Everton, shooting opportunities, dragged it wide. Mickey van der Ven had put the pressure on. Really good chance there for Everton just before half time.
Tell you what, Romero needs to be up to that.
We'll wait till half time, and then we'll say goodbye.
Because that was a shocking ball in the middle of the park, straight to Idrissa Gueye, who was through towards the edge of the area.
Everton corner. It was actually bent round. I didn't realise it had got bent round, but it has.
What actually happens is Højbjerg plays it off the foot of Gueye as he shoots behind. I think that should be a goal kick, but they're given a corner.
Yeah, I thought
I didn't think it was.
Yeah. Replay shows it was actually a really
not a
good
corner, but they've given one.
Ooh,
and it was on target as well, but he got kicked in out.
Towards the back post. He's headed back towards goal. There's a scramble on the goal line, cleared away by Vicario, just about. Spurs nearly a repeat of the first goal that Everton scored. Managed to deal with it this time. They try to get a counter-attack going on the left-hand side, but Everton have won it back.
Well, I have to give the goalkeeper credit because he was flapping again, but he's reacted ever so well as the ball's landed on the floor. He's on the deck and he kicks it away.
5 minutes extra time, so we've got another 4 minutes left.
Headed down,
4 minutes of this, come on. Are we going to get one person coming in? Because we've got Everton 1, Tottenham 2. Tottenham have just gone into the lead after Everton equalised. And we are now having the Tottenham goal peppered by Everton. And Tottenham keep panicking in defence.
Going to be a clear goal, wasn't it? Harrison was right there on top of him. He managed to just swing his right boot at it, as you say.
Last-ditch tackle, you'd call that, if it was a centre-half, and the goalkeeper's done exactly the same.
Absolutely, yeah. Mikalenko's got the ball now inside the Spurs half. Everton.
Jack Harrison, Garner, they're queuing up in the Everton attack.
It's going to drop for Garner on the edge of the area. Can he find room? He's blocks out and he goes back to Dwight McNeil. Shooting opportunity. No, he goes down the line.
They lost it.
Mikalenko.
They lost it to... and he pushes it straight over the opposite side of the pitch and out for a corner to Everton.
Worst case scenario for Tottenham because Everton are causing all sorts of problems from these corner kicks so far. We have played 2 minutes of the 5 minutes that are going to be added on at the end of this first half. What Everton would give now for an equaliser just before the break.
Yeah, absolutely. James Garner with it on the left-hand side. He put in a good
It's Everton 1, Tottenham 2, and
Everton
it's in the goal. And he's Braithwaite Branthwaite grabs it in the middle of the box.
These chances are totting up from set pieces for Everton.
You just sense there's another goal coming, don't you? Madison's gone down holding his right knee here in a bit of pain.
A bit of a stoppage now.
Collision was the hit between him and Branthwaite.
Yeah.
As he came out,
was Branthwaite taken down is the question.
I think he's actually
in the box.
He's got rid of the ball first off and he's gone down. I think that's what the free kick was given for by Michael Oliver. So have a bit of
gone the other way, has he?
on time here as Madison might need some treatment. Bit of cracking first half. And I have to say, nothing. I think Everton have played their part in it as well.
3 minutes of the 5 minutes extra time, and we have got Everton 1, Tottenham 2. It's been in the Tottenham box now for about 10 minutes. No kidding. They welly it forward. But he loses it to Braithwaite. You call him Braithwaite.
Madison's underneath it with Dwight McNeil. Strong challenge behind from Bentancur. And the referee awards a free kick. And Bentancur's 3 fouls he's committed already in the first half. He's really totting them up. Keep an eye on that in the second half. Branthwaite takes the free kick, lofted ball over the right-hand side, looking for the run of Godfrey. Too much on it. It's going to go out for a throw-in for Spurs on the left-hand side. And Sean Dyche can be really happy with his side's performance in this first half. The goals are 2 brilliant, well-worked goals. And he's
now we have got...
I think the only thing he'll be concerned with is the fact that Werner's got him behind a couple of times for the goals. Generally, Everton have defended all right other than that, I felt. And, they've looked relatively dangerous going forward as well. There's still a lot in this game in the second half. I'm going to put the kids to death, but there's more goals to come. Yeah, Harrison's trying to get one now as he finds Nikoleka from the edge of the area. Great strike. That's a good save.
Everton are really pushing now. They really are.
In the build-up, that was some strike from the Ukrainian.
It was. Kept it on target. Made sure he made the keeper
Everton 1, Tottenham 2 still. 30 seconds to go.
Pulled it back. There was a push from Garner on Brennan Johnson, who got back in the box to try and...
Can they get it out of their own box for Tottenham? Can they... somehow get it out? They only got 30 seconds. Surely they can.
Mark your card as well, by the way. No yellow cards in this first half. I think Michael Oliver's done pretty
back
well so
to
far.
Calvert-Lewin and he's Gay again. Idrissa Gay.
Madison then cleared back by
Branthwaite.
Might still stay in. It will.
Tarkowski.
Underneath it, loses out though to Romero.
Oh, he loses it to Richarlison. Oh, and he loses it to Branthwaite. Right, okay, that's the end.
As we approach the 5 minutes that have been played.
That's the end. That's half time, and it's Everton 1, Tottenham 2. We shall now quit, and we shall end the stream, and we shall be back for a walkthrough of the championship goals. See you later.